and we're talking about our University of Tampa Spartans baseball team, and we're chatting with standout JD Urso. What's going on, brother? How are you?
How we doing, Coach Jay? Good to see you, my man.
Good to see you, my friend. Great article written by the Tampa Bay Times talking about you and dad and just like what does it feel, man? Obviously, growing up, going to UT games as a kid, and then obviously going to Miami last year, and now back with the Spartans. Like, just take me through that whole process of making that decision to come back here and playing for UT again.
Yeah, I think the first thing that really could have kind of stuck out to me was how fast time flies, man, and the journey we've been on it for so long since I was a 8-year-old kid trying to get better every day, and to be able to look in the mirror and understand this is my last season is pretty crazy. And looking at the college journey, to be able to do 5 full years at the University of Tampa, 1 year at the University of Miami, like you really can't ask for much more than that. And to come back here for my last year, it just feels so right. It feels like being at home. Being able to put on that Spartan uniform that I sat in the stands and rooted for I don't know, 500, 600 games. It felt like it's just so awesome. And what makes me the most proud is to be able to do it with my dad and with his coaching staff that I basically grew up looking to as my stepdads.
What did you learn most from playing at Miami last year for that one season?
The Division 1 season is a bit more on the body with all those midweek games, and I believe the schedule is closer to 56 games. And so one of the big things I learned is like how important it is to have that daily routine and knowing how to get your work in without putting yourself down in the ground and working yourself till you're completely out of gas. But from a competition standpoint, uh, you're facing a lot of guys with power, just mid 90s heaters, some of them upper 90s, and really just throwing the breaking ball as hard as they can. And so those at bats obviously are tougher in the sense that you got to be ready for some speed. But just being able to go out there every day and compete against somebody who is just as good, if not better than you, it's a big task at hand. If there's one thing that I really took away from that season, from an offensive standpoint, it's really the swing decisions. You got to take swings at the right pitches. Some of those pitchers are so good that when they locate the pitch where they want it, it's I don't like to say unhittable, but it's really hard to get that up and in pitch when they're throwing real hard. And so just to be able to go into an at bat with a good approach and understand where we're trying to get our swings off. So trying to bring that into this last year for me here at the University of Tampa, and to get going on my pitches that I handle.
What was that conversation like with your mom and dad when you were making that decision to leave Miami to come back to UT? Did he bring it up? Did she bring it up? Did you bring it up? Like, how was that line of communication opened?
Well, to be honest with you, I think all of us were kind of just like a little shell shocked, a little trying to figure everything out. We had a little bit of insight that it was going to be wise to kind of put your name into that portal. And, I've kind of learned to hate it, to be honest with you, because it's such public information.
Right.
Back in the day, a school used to grant a permission to speak, and now you speak with the schools that you're interested in. But this new day and age, that transfer portal is public information, a public database. You're on Twitter pretty quickly, and the phone keeps ringing, and the phone keeps ringing, and you're trying to decipher, area codes, trying to figure out what school it might be, but you don't know until you answer that phone. And for us, it was just a ton of uncharted territory that we're all trying to figure out together. One of the things I realized quickly was I did want to stay in the state of Florida. Uh, I am a little bit of a homebody. I think it took me a little bit to learn that, but it was a blessing to be able to just be 4 hours away. I was able to come catch a midweek game and watch my boys on the midweek, and a couple times they were able to come down and see me. So it was beautiful. It was chaotic, and it was a dream come true at the end of the day.
What was the biggest adjustment then coming back to UT? Because obviously, being there in Cary last year, watching them win the championship, how do you kind of fit into here, right? Because obviously, guys move on. Gates and a bunch of those other guys, EJ Combo, big parts of the team. Like, how do you get yourself back in, right? Because now it's like, all right, well, you return a bunch of guys, you return a bunch of infielders too. How does that, adjustment period go where you're going in there? Because if you're in there, some other guys might not be in there. How's that kind of the reassimilation back with the black and red?
Yeah, and that was definitely something that I was thinking about a lot in the summer is, how do you join a team that just, pretty much, I don't want to use the word walked, but like, they won that national championship in decisive, factor. They
Mhm.
all season long, I believe they began on a 17-game win streak, one of the most dominant years I've ever watched the University of Tampa play baseball. So you're coming into the new year understanding that, there's some leaders that have established themselves, and you got to go in like, it is your first year. The 4 years before that, kind of throw them out the window, and you're joining a team that just had the most successful year in recent memory. And so the first couple months, you try to figure out where exactly you belong, who's the loudest voice in the room that everyone's following. And, once the baseball starts to get played, I think that's when everything kind of smooths itself out and everything on the field kind of establishes itself naturally. You
Mhm.
start to figure out who's the player that plays with a lot of energy, who's more of your silent assassin that just, like our Friday guy, Skylar Gonzalez, for example, one of the better pitchers in the country. And, he's a poker player. He doesn't frown, he doesn't smile, he goes, gets his out, and he's on to the next hitter. And so you're just kind of navigating the new team, figuring out your new teammates and how you're going to get the most out of every single one of them. Because at the end of the day, that's how we're going to win a championship is, with that 35-man roster or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's funny too because like when you look at some of the guys on the roster, the one thing I always loved about the way that your dad puts the team together is that there are a lot of Tampa guys on these teams over the last couple of years, and you look at some of the last names when you think of baseball. You think of Urso, you think of Russo, you think of Saladino. Those are three names that are synonymous with baseball here in the Tampa Bay area. And the fact that the three of you guys are playing together on this team this year, I mean, how cool is that to know that you're playing with Cole and Nico, and not just that you're playing with those guys, but all three of those big time baseball families are together supporting the Spartans this year.
Yeah, it really is special. I remember my little brother Preston actually played with Cole on a team called the Tampa Blades. They were probably like 8U at the time, so I was probably 10. And just being able to watch like a left-handed hitter with some power at 8 years old was like, man, this Cole kid's gonna be for real. And then obviously Nico, every team in Tampa talks about winning a state championship and the Saladino tournament. And so that name in Tampa, everybody knows, and it's put up there like it's royalty, which it is. But the one thing that my dad always preaches, and just a program as a whole, is we want players who want to be here. And I think that's the coolest thing is they want to be here. This is our home. This is where we grew up. When the lights turn on, or we look at that Tampa downtown backdrop, it's like this is our place. We feel like it's our city to run at night. It's pretty fun. You go out there with three kids who are truly born and raised in Tampa. You got a little bit of that chip on your shoulder. And we have I bet we probably have close to 12 guys that played in the Saladino tournament. So that Tampa background is definitely strong once again.
What is your favorite part about playing for your dad?
Man, there's my favorite part of it is that he also played here. He had his own playing career, which was extremely successful. And now I get to go out there and, we 20 years later, we're competing against each other. A few years back, I was able to break his doubles record. He had 23. I passed him by, and I made sure to let him know immediately, like, that was a nice season you had out there in 1992, man. It's too bad your name just got bumped down one on the record books, but it's awesome. And one thing that I really love about our program is after the wins, we have our handshake line, and then you see the four coaches lined up and they want their knuckles. And at the end of the game, well, we get our W. That's our way of saying tonight the job's done, the job's complete tonight, and just everybody celebrating as one. That's always a special moment for me after a big win.
Take us through the season so far, JD. What have you learned about this team? There's some good successes early on. We'll get to this weekend here in a bit, but man, what have you liked about your team's success so far?
The season started with more adversity than it usually does. The Diego Pavia ruling, the Vanderbilt QB, actually had a bit of impact on our team, as we had a bunch of guys that were in that little bubble of, are you D2 eligible only? Can you play D1? So we actually lost two players right before the season started. And, the locker room kind of had to stabilize a little bit, look around like, man, there goes two big pieces of the puzzle, but hey, we got more. And so we went out there on opening night and we actually lost the guy that was supposed to hit fourth for us that night, like hours before the game. And, we look at each other and someone step up. And surely that's what happened. We got off to a great start opening weekend with a big time sweep over regional opponent. And then the last 2 weekends for us have been, a little bit shy of our goal. We went and took 2 out of 3 the last 2 weekends, and that gets us to 7-2. But that's how big of the expectations are at the University of Tampa. Is that 7-2 start just feels like we're out the gate, we're doing what we're supposed to do, but we're here to dominate and win a national championship, and we definitely have our best ball ahead of us. I think 9 games in offensively, we should be accomplishing more. We're doing our job, but we got some guys that are capable of doing big things at the plate. And so I look forward to us being able to, kind of settle in as you get going. Once you get past game 10, you pretty much are in that rhythm of midseason form. And so that's what I'm the most excited about is, we got a good start at 7-2, but I could not feel more confident that our best ball is ahead of us.
One thing I talked to your dad about before the season is that this is one of the deeper teams, and I know you said it was challenged, having lost some of those guys, but just talk about the internal competition there, right? Going up against guys knowing that, like, hey, if I don't do my job, there's a guy chomping at the bit on the bench, ready to kind of take my spot. No, nothing's given there at UT.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously last year they were able to bring home that 9th national championship. And you lose some big keys, but obviously EJ Cumbo is huge, and JP Gates, the MVP of the national championship. And then here comes 12 more Division I transfers coming in to join a team that just dominated. And so in the fall you start to try to do some math in your head, like who's going to play where. But at the end of the day, everybody's competing every day. Every new lineup is what Hefe feels like is the best lineup for that night. And we got, 16 position players in the mix that all bring different aspects to the table. You got Maddox King, who is the best center fielder I've ever played with or against. Like I've seen some guys really go get the baseball in center field. The kid is special. Jordan Williams joins us from Florida State. His dad's obviously a big name in Tampa, Reggie Williams.
Yeah.
And I've never seen a kid steal bases like this. Last Friday night, he actually tied the single game stolen base record with 5,
right?
And it should have been 6. He took third base and got it taken away from him with a bad call, in my opinion, but just a unique skill set that you don't see every day. I mean, when you got a player who could steal 5 bags in one night, it's special. And, Cole Russo, too, cannot speak highly enough about the energy he brings to the table. He's got probably one of the more unique nicknames I've ever heard of. We call him Chicken Bone. And he's got his double celebration, which is, nicknamed the Chicken Bone. He does the little thigh clap, whatever you want to call it. And, just a pure hitter, man, who's able to stay gap to gap. He can beat you to left center. And if he pulls that ball in the air, he's got 3 home runs on the early season with tons of doubles. He's a guy that plays with energy, who's bringing us some slug to the plate. And like we were talking about earlier, a guy that this means the world to. He goes out there every night. You can see the Russo family sitting in the stands, and, it's just been special. But deep is an understatement. We got so many talented players, 2 catchers who are both studs. We got some hitters that, games on the line, we feel so confident in pinch hitting this guy versus the lefty, this guy versus the righty. It's like we got a little professional lineup at a NCAA D2 school. It's pretty special.
What's the focus this weekend? You're facing Lynn. Obviously, you play these guys for years. You've watched your dad. I mean, this is a heck of a matchup on the coaching side as well. You just know, that it's a classic red versus blue matchup, man, against Lynn starting tonight at 6 p.m.
Absolutely. And conference play is always extremely important. We talk about our goals at the beginning of the season, and the first step is winning your conference. And so these conference games mean the world to us, and winning that conference gets us that automatic qualifier into playoffs. And Lynn is one of 4 schools in our conference that has won a national championship, us, Florida Southern, Lynn, and Nova, I believe. And so they're a team that is dangerous. Any given weekend, they come out and they get hot. They're they're a pretty dangerous team. 2 out of their 9 starters have already played professional baseball, so I look forward to seeing what they bring to the table. But with the team that we have, we all in our locker room really feel like it's all about us just putting together at bats and playing our style of baseball, a clean, offensive game that we're going to go out there and get our hits, score our runs, and defense and pitching is going to win us that game late. And so going in this weekend, we look to get off to a good start in conference play. Obviously, got to get that series. And at home, winning that series sometimes isn't decisive enough later in those years when the committees get together. So got to go get Friday and get game 1 tomorrow and, see what the series brings. And, we'd like to get back going on those sweeps. That's what we're all about.
JD, before I let you go, people ask me about this, but I want to get your opinion. What's the secret sauce to UT's success over the years, other than chairs that popped down at the last second?
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know why.
You're good. So what's the secret sauce when people say what makes UT so good? Because this isn't something where it's just like, oh, you got to run a good players, right? Oh yeah, you just had these guys and an EJ combo. Like this team is good before EJ, and it'll probably be good after EJ. So when people ask you what is that secret recipe, that secret sauce to the success of UT baseball?
Yeah, and obviously they talk a ton about family, but it's tough to fully understand what that means until you're actually in the program. And from a hitter standpoint, there's a lot of places that you go 0 for 8, back-to-back 0-fers in a row, and the communication starts to get a little uncomfortable for people. These certain coaches add pressure and they start to make people press.
Right.
The communication at this school is top notch, and it's something where they look at every player they have and they start to understand you as a person and understand, what makes you tick, what gets you fired up, what's your keys for success. And it's so personalized that every player feels so comfortable here and they feel like they're in that environment, like they're hitting the cage with their dad, And lucky for me, I actually get to do that every day. But that environment is where you get the most out of people. And, being able to have a hitting guy like Jose, who tends to be on the simple side, when there's a big slump in front of you and it's like, man, my hands aren't working, my legs aren't where I want to be. It's so hard to get out of that. But when you get back to, the basics, hey, let's get the ball in the barrel, let's swing at a strike, let's try to hit something hard in the big part of the field. You tend to get hitters to free up their mind. And I know you as a baseball coach, you know that more than anybody. Sometimes it's not the technical answer that is sometimes the right answer. It's getting that smile back on that kid's face and getting him to go out there and play with joy. And that's what they do so well here is they not only make you feel like you're part of the family, but the everyday actions show that you actually are part of the family. And that's why I feel like we get the most out of almost everybody that comes through this program. And, there's a lot of really, really talented players sometimes that don't have great seasons, and they get to an environment that lets them be themselves. And that's where you see their true potential. And I think that happens a lot here.
1,000%. I know you guys are in action tonight at 6 p.m. over there at the Birdcage, and then a double dip tomorrow at 1 and 4. JD Urso, infielder for our University of Tampa Spartans. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me. Go get ready for the game. I'm going to do my best to be there tonight. Everybody bundle up if you're going to go out there because it's going to be a cold one. Appreciate you, my man. Give my love to everybody, and we'll talk soon.
Will do. Thank you, Coach Jay.
You got it.